So in this video, I'm going to just talk about 6 forgotten lessons taught by COVID, right? COVID-19. And I feel like bad things happen so people could learn and change the behavior, right? And things are kind of back to normal. Now COVID has passed. But there's some lessons that COVID taught us, and I feel like it's been forgotten. So this is just a quick video to remind you about some of the lessons that we kind of take for granted, right? That the pandemic taught us. So one of the first lessons that the pandemic taught us was that our family is important, right? That your family matters. Your children, your spouse, your parents, your caregiver, whoever you live with, that they matter and they are important. And we could recognize that we took human interaction for granted. We took them being there every day for granted. Especially if they were sick or they got COVID. You could kind of see how you took them for granted, right? And I saw that some parents started to spend more time with their children, started to create hobbies with their children, making use of the time that they had together, to spend time with them, to get to know them and so on. So people, our family started to learn how to love, how to care, how to respect their family members, how to listen, how to resolve conflict, and just took time to resolve problems, especially maybe husband and wife and children and parents or whatever. Some people took the time to resolve problems, different matters, spend time together, bond, get closer to each other, and so on. And now things are back to normal. It's like, are we still doing that? Some people, maybe they took time to clean their home, redecorate their home so they could be in a good atmosphere with their family, get rid of unwanted items so they could feel happy and just be in a better atmosphere when there's not a lot of junk around. Are we still doing that? And I feel like the most important thing is where children got closer to their parents and spent time together, they had fun together, creating hobbies. Families were exercising together, taking hikes, doing many different things, doing many different trips and so on. And it's like, are we still doing that? It's like we forgot the importance of the interactions with our family members, children, parents, caregiver, whoever you live with, whoever family member you live with. We take them for granted. We know that they're always going to be there, so we take them for granted, But that's not the case for everyone. On the other hand, some people, to be honest, and I do not sugarcoat anything here. I talk real, no sugarcoating, talk it like it is. And some people were actually upset because they were like stuck home with their wife, they were stuck home with their husband who they don't like, they're stuck home with their children who they might not like and they might not want to be around. Some people were annoyed with that time together, right? Because not everybody gets along. Not because it's your family member, it's your wife, people have tension, they have problems, they don't get along. Some people don't talk to their family members, right? Some people, like, they hate each other in their home, they don't talk to each other, there's tension, there's unresolved issues going on for many months, weeks, years. Marriages have problems. Marriages probably got worse, during COVID, right? They probably have been sweeping issues under the rug for years. And now they were stuck together in their home when they had the pandemic. They couldn't escape each other. So some people had it really bad, right? And then, when you have issues and you have problems with your family, with your romantic relationship or whatever, with your children, whatever, You go to drinking, we go to smoking, we go to overeating, we overwork, or you go shopping, you do compulsive spending, you go out to eat to escape the problems, your partner. You go cheating and, hook up with random strangers, or you go buy your side piece to escape. And when we had the pandemic, you couldn't really do that. You couldn't really go drinking, go smoking, go hook up with the side piece, or overwork. You had to be in your home, right? And we couldn't really do all of that unhealthy things where we go out to eat and so on. And what I'm saying is that the pandemic really helped us to realize the problems that we have, not only with our family members or with our spouse, but the different coping mechanisms we have, what we do after work. We couldn't get to do that so much. And with parents also, parents were complaining that, school is closed and whatever. There's some parents, they don't like their children, they don't want to be around them, they want to avoid them, they feel like their children is an annoyance to them. They don't want to deal with them. They don't want to have them in their presence. They don't want to deal with their emotions, they don't want to deal with their needs, they don't want to look after them, they don't want to raise them. And that is what we could have seen with the pandemic. So the first thing, not really in any particular order, but the pandemic helped us realize how important our family is to us, and our unhealthy coping mechanisms we do, especially after work, right? The another lesson taught by COVID was how we could work from home. And working from home have many advantages. And the pandemic taught us or showed us that many people were already burnt out. You're already stressed out from work, home life, work life, whatever. You already had anxiety, you were stressed, you were worrying a lot, you have a demanding boss, or you work long hours, or your job is really demanding, or you were overworking, whatever. The pandemic helped to show you what was really wrong with your life in terms of work and being burnt out. And the pandemic gave some people a wake-up call, and some people, they change their career, they quit their job, they start working for themselves, they use their hobby and create it into a business. They realize that, but we realize that burnout is real. Burnout is a serious problem, and we take burnout for granted, and we don't look at it as a problem, right? And we saw that we could actually be just as productive working from home, or even more. Some people, according to your personality or working environment, you could be even more productive working from home than in the office, right? And we saw that having Zoom calls and meeting online, it was just, it's cheaper. You don't have to travel to your work, you don't have to be in traffic to go to your work, you don't have to use a lot of money to get gas, to buy food, to prepare. You don't have to hurry to get the kids ready and get you ready to go work. It was actually, for some people, working online was actually refreshing, was actually fun, and some people were actually more productive. And now things are back to normal. Most people are back to work, and some people, according to where you work, you could still be online and you would still be effective, but most people, they are back face to face in the office. And during the pandemic, bosses and many employers, they were willing to give time off to reduce the work hours. Some people work online some days, sometimes you show up some days, and this was working very well for some people. Or you could have requested to work online, right? Because people were quitting and people were starting to realize how unfair it is at their jobs, not getting time off, or overworking, or having a demanding boss, or working too long long hours, or not being able to get your vacation the time that you want. Many things happen. And the pandemic helped us to realize all of those stuff, right? Some people, they rethink their career. They choose to work for themselves. We really realize that burnout and being stressed and overworked is a real problem, right? People who are having an unfulfilling job, they quit. And some people quit without having a backup plan. And my experience when I was working online as a teacher, working online was very rewarding. Working online was, I actually had a good experience working online. I was more productive working online. My students got higher grades working online. I had more control of the classroom working online. Working online for me I was more productive, right? I got more involvement in class, more control. Students got better grades, students show up on time, less distraction, right? When you have less distraction, you could be more productive. So my experience working online was pretty amazing. That was one of maybe the only time I felt like really productive and like I'm progressing and seeing development and movement with myself and with students. So working online for me was pretty good. And also, like, according to where you work, just not having physical interaction, especially it determines on your personality or whatever, but not having to interact so often with people, your co-workers, your boss, not having to, especially if you have difficult boss and difficult co-workers, working online could have been so beneficial to you, right? Not having to experience negativity and judgment constantly every day, right? Being alone and walking in silence. For some people, you could be really productive. Being alone, walking in silence, especially without distractions, right? You know, sometimes you're at work and there's many distractions and you can't focus and concentrate on one thing. Sometimes you're busy doing many things that it's not productive, it's not leading to anything, but you're always busy and you're not progressing. And when you work from home, you work online now, you get to be more productive, if you understand what I'm saying. So working online, you could it was a break of not being judged. When you go to work, you're judged how you dress, how you look. There's jealousy. People are jealous of many things. They're jealous of your personality. They're jealous of maybe your salaries are different. There's difference in your salary. You could be jealous. They're upset with that. They envy you. They're jealous of your lifestyle. They're jealous of how you dress. They talk about what you drive. They gossip. All of these gossip, backstabbing, arguments, conflict, people disrespecting you, noise from people quarreling, fighting, constantly people like walking in an environment where people are just talking about meaningless things, having meaningless conversations, and it's just like useless conversation and noise that could like reduce productivity, right? And you don't have to experience exclusion of people, or all of these things could be reduced, and some of them could be avoided by working online. I'm not saying everybody needs to work online, that's impossible, but I'm saying like for jobs where you could actually continue working online, you should. And especially if you're more productive working from home, that should be an opportunity still going on, right? So I think people should still continue to work from home. You could still continue to try to reduce working hours, to try to reduce the amount of days. Maybe you work 6 times a week, maybe you should work 5, you know. Maybe sometimes, some days you show up in the office, some days you work online, but now for most people it's back to normal, you show up to the office, right? So that's one lesson the pandemic taught us, that you can be productive working online. and that burnout is real. Stress, burnout, overworking, toxic working environment is real, right? And you could also be productive, or sometimes even more for some people, even more productive working from home, right? So that's the second lesson the pandemic taught us. So the third lesson COVID taught us, but not everybody, is that some people realize that self-care matters. Self-care really matters, right? Sometimes you're walking day to day, in and out, long hours, and you don't take care of yourself. And when COVID-19 hit some people, they start to realize like nutrition is important, physical activity is important, having a healthy weight is important, getting enough rest is important, taking your vitamins matters. Like all of these normal basic things that we should do every day is important, and the pandemic helped some people to realize that they take these things for granted, and doing these things can help you to prevent diseases, to help you fight off diseases easily, right? Some people basically learned how to have a healthy lifestyle just because of the pandemic, right? You realize that when you had more time at home, you realize that you never had enough time to take care of your skin, to take care of your hair, to have oral hygiene properly, to take care of your nails, your hands, your feet, to bathe properly. Sometimes you're hurrying to cook healthy foods, to exercise. No time to exercise, no time to cook healthy food because you're working long hours. You're always walking, you're always rushing. And the pandemic helped us realize that self-care matters, right? And we saw that age was just a number. Old people died from COVID, young people died from COVID, especially if you were unhealthy or you had some pre-existing disease. You could have died from COVID, right? There was a higher chance of you dying if you already had health problems. Whether you're young or you're old, many people, they died, right? People realize that. Also, when I'm talking about self-care, also deals with your work-life balance, being overworked, and neglecting your family, your friends, neglecting your social life, and not having time to relax. All of that is self-care, mainly to be healthy mentally, having time for family, friends, social life, relaxation, to recover, having time to relax and connect with other people will help with mental health. And that's what we realized with the pandemic, right? There are many people who know about this before. They don't need a pandemic, they don't need to experience COVID-19 to know that self-care matters both physically and mentally, right? And keeping in touch with friends, keeping in touch with family, it avoids isolation, it avoids loneliness, depression, anxiety, worry, boredom, restlessness, all of that. We take our mental health for granted. Some people start to realize that self-care matters physically and mentally, right? We took being outdoors for granted. We took hiking for granted. I saw more people hiking, walking through the park, sunlight for granted. We took getting fresh air for granted, being free and just being outside. We took all of that for granted. Going to exercise, going to the gym for granted, going to whatever you do, go out to eat, go get coffee, going out, whatever. All of that we took for granted. And the pandemic helped us to realize that we need to be healthy physically and mentally. And all of those things we took for granted, right? Another lesson the pandemic, COVID-19, showed us was that you need to be prepared financially. For emergency, you need to have cash on hand, you need to have saving, you need to have money saved for hard circumstances, for emergency, you know. Some people, they got reduced work hours, they got a lower pay. Some people got laid off, unemployment. You must have savings for hard circumstances. That's what the pandemic taught us. We need to stock up on food, You just need to be prepared to pay medical bills and whatever, anything could come up, right? So the pandemic showed us that you need to have savings, you need to be prepared financially for anything, right? Another lesson, the fifth lesson the pandemic taught us was the importance of doctors, the importance of nurses, any healthcare provider, teachers or healthcare providers, teachers, like anybody who take care of children or people who deliver things, like all the jobs where you saw like people were highlighted, you start to see how important they are, especially doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, people who take care of children and all of that. These people are taken for granted almost every day, and they finally got the recognition that they needed. But as things come back to normal, we start to take them for granted again, right? That's the fifth lesson that the pandemic taught us, that we shouldn't take all these people for granted. The sixth lesson COVID-19 taught us, the pandemic taught us, is that especially where I live, people take mental health for granted, and they're ignorant people who just, they don't know about mental health, they don't take it seriously, they think it's not a thing, they think it don't exist. But we realize that loneliness and isolation cause mental health problems. Obviously, you have to be indoors for many weeks, many months. And then some of us, we start to realize like our friends and our friendships, they matter. I talk about friendships before in a video in the past. Friendships matter. Seeing them and meeting up with them is vital. Hugging and kissing your family members, your spouse, your significant other, your romantic partner, all of this, it matters. Going to school, seeing your friends, secondary school, college, university, wherever, even people make friends at work. All of this matters, right? Not being able to catch up with them, not being able to talk about personal issues with them, or not being able to just be around them and talk and see them could make you feel isolated and lonely. Not being able to hang out with them, not seeing them, right? And doing all of this will contribute to good mental health. And we could see how we took being lonely and being isolated could cause mental health problems, right? Some people, they recognize that for the first time they could go in nature and they could shake off some stress, they could get rid of tension from being at home for many days, many weeks, many months. Or they were overworking, or whatever your problem was, you realize that you could go in nature and relieve stress, and notice the birds, and notice the trees, and notice the mountains, and notice there are beaches, there the sky, you see the stars, you see the moon, you in sunlight, whatever. All of these things we took for granted, and the pandemic helped us to realize that we shouldn't take this for granted. All of these things, they help with your mental health. And now things are back to normal. Now we take them for granted again. I believe that when the pandemic happened, when COVID-19 happened, that some people, they realize that mental health is a serious thing, right? Juggling your work and trying to take care of children is difficult, especially if you don't have help. All of these things, they cause stress. Losing a job causes stress. Isolation, you losing loved ones, like somebody probably died from COVID or some other serious health problem, and it's not easy to lose a loved one. And sometimes you lose a loved one and you have to carry on like nothing happened. You have to go work like nothing happened. You just carry on and you don't get time to deal with it because you're so busy. And that will cause problem, right? Cause stress. And then talk about chronic stress before in another video, I can't remember, but I talk about when stress get chronic and then it affects you physically. right? I talked about that before in a video. I can't remember. I've done like so much videos that I can't remember what I talk about specifically or what the name of the video is. But I talk about chronic stress and when it starts to affect you physically, right? And now things got more expensive. Things are getting more expensive. Not, that could cause stress, financial problems, not being able to have the opportunity to achieve your financial goals. No, you have career goals. No, anything could have happened to you. There's a whole setback, maybe in your relationship, with your family, with your friends, with your romantic partner, anything. All of these issues could cause stress, worry, anxiety, depression, not being able to move forward with your life, because some people, you're still experiencing a whole setback and it's 2023, right? All of this causes stress, it causes sadness, it causes frustration, especially if you didn't work on your relationships, you didn't work on your career goals, you probably didn't, whatever you needed to do and you didn't do it, and you're back to normal and you didn't resolve these issues, right? So this was just a quick video to remind you about the lessons that the pandemic taught us, and that we shouldn't take our family for granted. Our family matters. The interaction with them every day matters, right? We shouldn't take our family or friends for granted. The next thing, walking, we can work from home and we can still be productive. Some of us even more productive. There's less negative encounters with your boss, with difficult co-workers. You could walk in silence, you could be more productive. Especially one of the biggest problems I have, especially with work, is when you're always busy doing many different things all over the place, and most of the things you're doing and you're busy with, it leads to nowhere, and you're not productive, but you're busy whole day and you don't progress. That is a problem I have, right, with work. Any job, being busy every single day for long hours with many different things, like your focus is all over the place and it leads to nowhere. There's no progress or development of what you're doing. But when the pandemic hits and you need to be home and you're in silence, you're way productive, right? So the pandemic showed us, like, some people, they could work from home and it could be even more productive, right? Less conflict, less arguments, especially with women. Talk about experience with women at work already in what that video called, can't remember. Why fathers are more important than mothers, and something about male figures. I did that recently. You could check that out, right? And the next thing we talk from, I'm just wrapping up this video, is that self-care matters, right? Some of us, we realize, like, self-care matters. Having a healthy lifestyle, it matters. Some people, they knew before, it's their normal life to take care of themselves, to eat healthy, to exercise, to take their vitamins, to get enough rest, blah blah blah. But some people, they finally realize, like, yeah, this is important. And now things back to normal, you're probably not taking it serious anymore. And the next thing is being financially prepared, like having savings for emergency. Any bad circumstance could pop up, anything could happen, and you need to be prepared, right? And the next thing I talked about was the importance of doctors, nurses, healthcare providers. They are important, we should never take them for granted, right? And also the importance of mental health, realizing that isolation and loneliness could cause problems, anxiety, worry, stress, depression, right? So I just believe, like, when you change your behavior, that's when you really learn. So although the pandemic was a really hard experience, no, people go back to the same they're going back to their negative habits or their negative patterns they used to do. They're back to doing that, whatever it is. So you're back to smoking more, you're back to drinking more, you're back to overspending when you get upset, you're back to going out to eat, overeating, you're back to cheating to get away from your problems with your spouse. You're back to your side piece. You're back to your side piece after work. You're back to overworking. Working long hours to avoid your problems, to avoid going home, to avoid your spouse, to avoid your problems, to avoid your children. You're back to oversleeping. Whatever you do to cope, you're back to that. Because things are there, back to normal, back to ignoring problems. So, some of us, we didn't learn the lessons. And when you learn a lesson, you change your behavior, right? And this was just a quick video to remind you of the lessons that COVID-19 taught us, the lessons that the pandemic taught us, right? So I hope this helps, and you could like the video, and you can subscribe if you want to, and see you in the next video.